All right, welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to have a very special person with me today. There's been a huge process in regards to like finding an editor, working with an editor. And shout out to Donna because I had Donna originally before. Now I have the beautiful, the wonderful Luana, and we're gonna chop it up today. Luana, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's
Yeah,
early. The sun is gonna shine later on today in New York. I'm good.
you're a morning person, right?
Yep, morning person.
Yeah. So
So I'm
what's your?
like 3 hours in. I'm like,
You're already 3 hours. What time is it there?
it is 6:11 a.m.
And you're 3 hours in.
But I went to sleep around 9:30 last night, so
Okay, so
I
what's
think
your what? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm well rested. I think you're gonna ask like what's my routine.
Uh huh.
Um so I used to this is like more info than you need to know, but I used to be known in the family as like 9 p.m. At 9, Luana is knocked out. It doesn't matter where she is, what's happening, family's over, she's asleep. Right? And
Wow.
I would sleep until, like 8 in the morning. So I was like a good sleeper. But then life happened, adulting happened, work happened.
Of course.
And so now I sleep. I mean, I go to bed around 11 and it's a lot of broken sleep, but then I'm up at
Hmm.
like 4 a.m. So
Wow.
it's like not the best sleep schedule, but I'm fine. I operate on it. I think I'm fine. I think I'm okay.
You're so funny because it's like as you're talking, like we have similar schedules. I go to bed. I was never an early bed person, but especially as a teacher, I'm like, pretty much exhausted when I get home. So I'll eat, do a little work, writing, reading, whatever. I go to bed 9:30, and I am up around 4:30 as well. Partially because I'm also wanting to get in like some reading or some writing or just like a call home every morning before I go to school. My school day starts at like around 8. But that's so interesting to me. Has like, and my follow up question to that is like, what? And I always ask this, but like, what was like little Luana's life like growing up? Was she still a morning person?
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, I was a morning person. And I love to tell people I grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, the home of like the best rappers, the best thinkers. Ibram X. Kendi was born there. I mean, raised there. 50 Cent was raised there. I want to say Evie's a boy, but don't quote me. I feel like she said it. And I was like, yo, we all from the same place. Like the greatest people come from there. But if you know anything about South Jamaica, it's the hood, right? And it's, but I think a wonderful place that has really shaped me into who I am, because I'm like in this one space, but I'm very much a dork. And people respect me for it. Like, so I really leaned into that. Like, I used to color at lunchtime. Like, I hung out with the teachers versus like the students. And so back to me being an early bird. Yes, I was always an early bird because I was always at school first. It's always at school first.
Were you a walker or did you take the bus?
Walked. So,
Walk.
so for what? All of the three elementary schools I went to were in the neighborhood. They were zone schools, and so that
Hmm.
is also a result of like not having the funds to like do anything different. So I went to all public schools. They were all zoned.
Wow.
Um, and and yeah, and three for elementary school, and
Hmm.
we walked. My sisters walked me. I have two older sisters, best sisters in the world. They walked me every day, even if I embarrassed them. with, with my like huge backpack full of coloring books. I kid you not.
Uh-huh.
Like, it was
That is
just
awesome. That is awesome.
an early riser.
Were you also I have so many questions for you. So like my first question is, were you also a writer and like a creative coloring person back then, or is that something that came over time?
Gary, I don't write.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
No, no. I think. I, mm, I
Because
always said to myself
because you
that.
told me about that paper. We will talk about that later, but you told me about that paper.
So when I was young, I really am into things that are cute and fun. So that's what coloring was for me. It was like an outlet of like I could SpongeBob. I
Uh
could color
huh.
SpongeBob all day, Rugrats, and so just like kind of bringing my interest with me is
Uh
sort of what
huh.
coloring was. But on the other end, writing, I was really good at that, but not
See,
creative writing.
see,
No,
see.
it was more like reports. It's like like I was good at academic writing, and
Okay.
yeah, so maybe it is creative. I think it gets creative once you get into college. But back then, it was just like they told you what to write, you wrote it, and I was good at that. I was always good at that. Yeah,
And that's a skill. I think that is a skill. I think academic writing is definitely a skill. And there are like, I mean, I've read a lot of it just because of like university. It does. I don't think it sounds all the same. I do find some academic writing interesting, and some of it's like really really boring as well. Which is true, which is very very
yeah,
true. I want to know more about like your life in Jamaica, Queens. Like, who are people within your family that really influence like not necessarily like who you are today, but maybe like
yeah,
just like family influence, etc.
yeah. Family. I feel like, and I'm glad that we get to have this conversation because it brings up a lot. I feel like my siblings, right,
Hmm.
were a big part of it, and my cousins were a big part of like my growing up because um, I lost my father at an early age. I was maybe 9, 10.
Hmm.
It was sudden. He went to the hospital and like it was just sudden, right? And he was like huge. My mom worked a lot. She worked in the airport and customs border protection. She still
Hmm.
does it to this day.
Wow.
So like, she had like a big job, and he was a mechanic. He was a car mechanic, and so he obviously was the primary parent in that sense. Like,
Hmm.
he was the one, dinner, go to bed, do your homework. If it's wrong, rip it up, do it
Hmm.
over. Like
Hmm.
that was his job.
Hmm.
um,
Making you
and
work
so
hard.
yeah, oh yeah,
Hmm.
oh my,
Hmm.
he was he was. I mean, luckily I was always good, but my like watching my siblings go through the whole like you have to do this over business, it's crazy.
Hmm.
So when he was gone, like we had to really lean on each other. And to this day, they're my best friends first. I mean,
Hmm.
my real best friends get annoyed when I say that, but they really are my best friends, first and foremost. And we did everything together. Like we rode bikes together,
Wow.
we go to the bodega together,
Hmm.
we go to if we went to a cousin's house, we would travel on the train together. We like everything was really close knit between us, and so I would say them first and foremost, and then my cousin. I think
Hmm.
like I get my sense of humor from him. He was like the jokester, and so I don't know. I think it was really just the kids that kind of
Hmm.
stuck together, and
Hmm.
and yeah, in terms of family, those
Wow. Wow. Well, shout out to Dad. And I mean, I hear
yeah,
you and I see you, and thank you for being so vulnerable. It's something about, I mean, and this, I'm not speaking for all Black families, but there is something about, there's so many moments that I can like think in my head about like people that are close to me. And I always say this when I speak to people who are in different countries than me, but look like me. Even in my family, like there's so many situations where families show up in so many different ways. That's why my cousins are like sisters. That's why my aunts and uncles are like people I would see absolutely every single day. But it's so nice to hear that your siblings were the people that showed up for you, and in so many ways, the good and the bad. Because I know there were probably moments there. Exactly. Right. Exactly. There were probably.
my little brother, I was like, I have to love you at a distance. Every so often, I like block his number and then I unblock him because I mean, he's a lot, but he is very misunderstood. But he's like
Uh
my
huh.
favorite guy in the world. But yes,
Exactly. And
it
that's
is.
siblings. That's siblings, right? That is siblings. I have an older sister, and we are best friends now. Now.
Yeah.
But when we were younger, I mean, we used to kill each other. I remember vividly. Like we would have water fights in the house. In the house. I know. You can only imagine how that ended. You can only imagine, right? We would get on each other's nerves. Like I would like sing songs, and she would copy the songs that I'm singing just on purpose, just on purpose. Like she would like, but now we genuinely love each other.
Right. Well, what is love? Because I still do that. Like I understand.
See,
Why not? You
that's
have
what siblings do. That's what siblings do. So, Luna, you are again. I've mentioned this to you before, but you are such a. It's so nice to see you in the position that you're in. We are very new in regards to the relationship that we're going to have with like writing and being my editor. But how does one get into being an editor, even though someone said they're not a writer? Just putting that out there.
Well, that so let's kill that. You do not have to be a writer to be an editor. I firmly believe this. I do. I firmly believe this. But it does help if you're a writer. That that's how you kind of get into books. So, I mean, I guess we could start with my like college journey, right? So I actually went to high school for like a specialized science program. It was like the Carl Sagan program in Forest Hills. It's a very affluent school in Queens. Well, affluent neighborhood in Queens, but it was like a public high school. And I think now it's sort of like completely specialized. So I got in through this program and I was good at it. And but then they started dissecting the frogs and things started getting weird. And I just was like, so this is not for me because I'm not doing it.
Fair,
That's
fair.
just gross, right? And so it just didn't really mesh well like with my personality. So I went into English.
Mm.
And I went into English, but I also did like now I'm like physics and like some science stuff on the side, but I changed my track to English. Um, and then I went to college, no idea what to do. But my first degree that I knew I was going to go into English because I was like, well, I like to read books. Like, I want to do that. And then I'm not going to say his name, but I met this really crazy person on campus. And he was like, you should take a Black Studies course. And I was like, for what? I questioned it a little bit, but I was like, why not? And so, um, I'm doing English. I went into this course, this Black Studies course, and he was like, "We're going to be a community. Like that was it. We're going to be
Mm.
community first. No leeches in my class." He used to like blast music like jazz and like rap. Like I was
Wow.
yeah, and other teachers hated him because it was so early in the morning. He used to like blast black
What kind
music.
of rap? What would he rap? Like, what kind of songs would he play in the morning?
Um, so Talib, like conscious rap. He was
Okay,
never, he would play a lot of
okay,
conscious rap.
okay. For
And
those who are listening, can you explain what conscious rap is? Because some people may not, they may not
so
understand that phrase.
conscious rap is rap that is socially aware, and deals with issues that are relevant to the Black community, I think, in a very productive way. Um, and, some people would say common is that. I'm trying to think of folks that are like popular.
So
Um,
unlike
as,
the
as, as a
unlike the diss that is like the unlike the battle that's happening right now.
I was gonna say, like before, like last week, Kendrick would kind of fall into that category, but Black Thought, and I know I'm missing a lot of others because just
Mm-hmm.
it's 6 a.m. Forgive me, but conscious rap is that body of rap that is part social commentary, love letter to Black people. It
Mm-hmm.
is that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's blasting this, and some of it is like F the people, ooh, right? F the man, and for the people. And so he was like, he just like kind of like shocked me in a way that was really nice. And so I'll tell the story, but I'm in this class and I'm learning about revolutionary figures that I never knew about, like political prisoners. Really and also breaking down what we think we know, right, about
Mm-hmm.
MLK and like how he's not actually very passive, not nonviolent. He walked around with, yeah, he had guns. His people had
Mhm.
guns, right? Because they had to
Mhm.
stay safe. And really breaking down those walls of like what Black revolutionary thought looks like in the academy, which I thought was really great.
Mhm.
So I'm like, all right, let's do this. And then we get our first, and what made me stay, and I'll get into how I'm an editor. I'm rambling, but it
No, you're
all
good. You're good.
depends. And so I get to, I'm in this class. I was like, oh, I really like it. He gives us our first assignment. And I was like, I got you. He's like, 3 or so pages about who you are and where you come from. Um, easy. And so I give him this, right? I give him like this long-winded story. I deliver this man about 7 pages, and I'm like, this is lit. He's gonna love it, right? I'm feeling myself. I get the paper back. There is no grade on it. I mean, I was just appalled. Like he was like, I didn't read it because you didn't follow instructions. And I was like, sir, I labored over this. Everyone was at the frat house and they was partying. I wrote this. Like I was so bruised.
How long? How long was it? How long was it?
It was 7 pages.
And what was on the syllabus? What did they ask you for?
3.
Wow, more than double. More than double.
He was like, I'm not reading this. So
Wow.
I'm upset. And I went to him.
Wow.
I told him I was upset. And I ripped it up and I was like, I can't take it. And so, in addition to learning a lot about my history and my people, I think those courses also taught me a lot about myself. And how he was like, what he said, we're not just preaching a cosmology that is like, we are community centered, we have
Mhm.
to be that. And so
Mhm.
you coming in here overachieving and doing a lot, like you're not on the pace of the others. And he also had this thing about not contributing enough. He called them leeches and he would like kick you out. If you didn't read,
Wow.
he'd kick you out.
Wow. He called them leeches too. Wow. I
So you're
like
not
him.
a
I
leech
like
on.
him.
Yeah, so he was great, and he introduced me to some really incredible people, and he got me into organizations like BSU, Black Student Union. I was on this newspaper called For Hari Libertad, which was really nice. I was like, what else did I do? I did some other stuff. Like there's this
Mhm.
thing called Black Week. It was great. And so this is all like, right, building this sort of like confidence to just like go out and get it.
Mhm.
Um, and to also stand firm in my identity as a African American woman, right? And so,
Mhm.
and then I'm reading books, like, Shakespeare and all those other folks, Jane Austen,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So you put that together, what do you have? This like double major in literature and Black studies. And my grandmother, bless her soul, she's like, what are you gonna do with that? Like she was like, what? Did you just waste, like, seriously? She was like, did you just waste 4 years of your life? What?
Wow.
So she was very, I mean, that she's not gonna mince words. She's at this stage in her life where she's
Of
not gonna lie
course.
to us. She
Of
said
course.
it at graduation. She was
Oh
like, what?
wow.
um
Wow.
but she was happy. That's her way of being happy.
But she's just checking in. Just
She's a speech pathologist. Well, she was, and so
Oh my.
she's a doctor, and she's so important. And I was like, okay. Um. Anyways, and so that's how it happened.
Wow.
I read my last year, The New Jim Crow.
Mhm.
It was like my last year in college. I read it in this class called The Black Woman. And I don't know why. I guess because Michelle Alexander wrote it. She's a Black woman, but it's this
Uh-huh.
course called The Black Woman. It was incredible, great course. Like it should always exist. And I looked at the back of the book and I noticed that there was a publisher, and I literally just went to their website and applied for their internship. That's how it
Wow.
happened.
Wow.
And yeah, so I
What?
got hired
That's
as the
crazy.
editor.
So
Yeah.
keep going. You got where was the internship?
So it was at the New Press downtown, and they are a social justice imprint, and publisher,
Hmm.
and they are, I want to say, nonprofit. They have a lot of like backers and stuff, so very small, but they do good books. Like the New Jim
Hmm.
Crow took America by storm. It was like insane, right, when it came
Mm-hmm.
out. And they had me interning there, and the slush pile, when like the amount of pages that I had to read, I was like, okay, I kind of like this, like scouting out potential new work and great writers. But I was like, once I got to page 50, eyes burnt, because I'm also in grad school at the time, Gary,
Oof,
right? So I'm like, what?
that's a lot.
I'm 50 pages in. I'm tired. I was like, this cannot happen. so
That's a
so
lot.
the person who and they're like 400-page manuscripts. I was like, oh my god. So so yeah, I was
Wow.
to the person who hired me, and I was like, yeah, so I like this publishing thing. Just not sure that this level of reading is good for me.
that
And he was
that
like,
is
he allowed me on the job. He was like, well, apply to like other internships, right? Within,
wow.
right? And so I applied to Simon and Schuster, Spotlight, and they do a lot of licensing. They do chapter books.
Hmm.
They publish SpongeBob books. so
Let's
I was
go.
sold. And I was like, yes. And so it's like all that like coloring book and like cartoon activity, it's like coming full circle for me, right? So
Uh-huh.
I was like, yes. And I get there and everyone's great. Everyone's great. I think licensing though is a very different beast, because you're dealing with content that already exists. And
Hmm.
then you have to like uh, create something new out of that content that already
Hmm.
exists. And they do a lot of IP as well, but that too is like you get a roadmap of what needs to be done and then you execute. So
Wow.
it's a different type of creativity that I was like, okay, I like children's publishing, but maybe something a little different. And so
Hmm.
this is all happening back to back. This is
Uh-huh.
like, there's no time, there's no space. Like,
And you're
it
still
was
in
like
grad school.
still in grad school. So, um, yeah, and then I get the job at HarperCollins, and I was hired to be an admin assistant to the publisher. But I got there, and I mean, long story short, somehow I was like assisting two editors as well, in addition to this publisher. So I was like admin, like half editorial assistant when I got there. Um, and yeah, I've been there
Wow.
ever since. That's how it happened. It was like I went to
Wow.
college, read a book, and it literally changed my life. Quite
You
literally.
you read a book and then you looked at the back of the book to find out how it got published. Like that is such a journey. Such a
Yeah.
journey. And we had talked about this and I think it's so interesting because and I think it's really good to hear your story because we often hear one or two stories and I can only speak for myself and how my journey has been with like writing. And it wasn't a traditional journey, but people have always told me like, hey, like, it takes a really long time. Your manuscript may go through so many editors before one person picks it up or even an agent looks at it. And it's not always the case. I think most people that I've talked to, yes, but it's not always the case. And
No.
with your journey, I think that's so good to hear because you also kept at it. You had so many opportunities to be like, yeah, this doesn't feel good. I don't think I want to do this, but you kept looking for like the right fit as
Yeah.
well. And I do think in at least again in my case, there's some sort of I don't want to call it luck, but like the idea of like opportunity presenting itself in situations that may fall in your favor, and I think those things are good as well. Um, but it doesn't take away the fact that you've worked extremely hard, like
You try.
extremely hard, extremely hard.
Same. Same.
Yeah.
Luck is a funny word, and I think opportunities befall people's everyday opportunity.
Hmm.
And it literally is what you do with it, right? It
Hmm.
is what you do with it. And so I think luck is like 20% of it, and then
Hmm.
50 is like execution. You
I
keep
agree.
pushing, and then whatever other percent, I think 30% is like failing, right? Whatever. It's been a
Yeah.
while since I've been in math class, but it's failing.
Uh huh.
And starting over and doing it again and
Hmm.
regrouping. So like it's luck, but it's also talent and hard work and just knowing when to give up and when not to give up.
Yeah.
So I think success is like just it's a melting pot of things
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, uh, anybody could have read the new Jim Crow, and they have. It sold
Uh-huh.
millions of copies,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, and for you, it's like anyone could have met your agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
queried your agent. It
Mm-hmm.
just so happened that the manuscript that you wrote,
Mm-hmm.
the story that you wrote, resonated with him and so many others, right? And it
Yeah.
just
That
it's somewhat luck, but it's definitely seizing the opportunity, I think.
I totally agree with that. And I love the percentages regardless of whether they equal 100. I hear you.
You were
And it
right.
make yeah, no, it totally makes sense though because I think the hard work part and the failure part is something that it's so interesting being, and it's taken me a while to call myself a writer and an author, but like now that the book has come out, it's so interesting to hear people talk about writing, and not people that you normally would talk to. And if I'm being like super candid, it's just like strangers that you work with or colleagues that you work with, strangers that you run into, and some of the comments are like, "Oh, I wanted to write a book," or
Hmm.
I was thinking about writing a book, or I have a something I've written, and it's kind of like, hmm. It makes you just think, like, do you really think it's that easy? Do you really think it was you wrote something and all of a sudden it's published and etc. Like, it almost takes away, all of the hard work that you've done, with them thinking, oh, you wrote something, so maybe I think I can write something. No, that's not how it works at all. At
I love
all.
because I love hearing this because I get that all the time.
See? You hear me. Like, we are same, same right now.
And I'm in a different boat because they want me to sign it. And I'm sitting here like, wait, so you wrote like this historical nonfiction book? Like, I don't
See?
even like this. We're not even same bracket, bruh. Like,
No,
I don't
people
even.
don't stop. People
It's
out
just
there, stop. Just stop, please. Just
yeah, and
stop.
it
Just
does
stop.
take away. I think it does sort of take away. Uh, I mean, I don't. Anyways, I think it does sort of minimize what writers do.
That's the word. Minimize.
It
Hmm.
definitely minimizes it and write it. I always encourage them write it,
Same.
and then
Same.
when they get into the swing of writing it and they see that it's not all it's cracked up to be just because you had this idea and you put it on paper, it's not going to magically become something. Like it
No.
could take days. For some, it takes days. For some, it takes years. A lot of
Hmm.
peer review. It
Hmm.
takes just brushing up your own skills and like it
Agreed.
takes living, right? Like I think a lot of people
Agreed.
that write need to live a little and before they
Hmm.
can actually write something
I
that's
love
worth
that.
reading.
Hmm.
And so it's like, it's like write it and
Yeah.
you come back to me in a few years and let me know how that worked out. And hopefully it worked out well. But
Yeah.
write
I always encourage people to continue on. I think writing is a great reflection tool. Write and share as much as possible. But yes, just you can write it. You can write it. Lana, what do you look for in a manuscript? Because I know that editors have preference. They have feel for certain writers or or like flows or styles. Like, what do you look for specifically in a manuscript?
well, I look for a lot of things because I have wide interest.
Hmm.
And I think when I first started, I was really, really in a place where I think we all were, right? Like I really started to like vigorously acquire in like 2019, right? And so I'm in this space where I'm like we need to feel empowered. And so I think at the start, like at first, I was really into like big empowering books, inspirational books, those sort of really good feel good stories.
Hmm.
And I also like character driven books. So books that have a character that could be spread across series.
Hmm.
I really, really like that as well. And these days I'm looking for humor. Um, I and most people will tell you they're looking for humor, but like I actually legit am looking
I love that.
for humor. I like humor plus message driven things. There are these books coming out where there's like, no message, which I think message is a lot, but like if you can marry humor and like a message of like, you know, pick up after yourself and like
Hmm.
little things, like I think that
Hmm.
is good to have during story time. And so I'm really into that. Um I I've done a few biographies. I don't do them as often, but I think biographies of people. So I'm doing one on Cicely Tyson. I did one on James
Oh.
Baldwin, right? And so
Hmm.
people who haven't really gotten the shine in the picture book space, like I do a few of those. Not a lot of nonfiction. I think fiction is my jam. So
Mm.
I also go for things that are really language driven. Um, so things that are rhythmic, lyrical, um, even stuff that like has great pacing. I think if it's like longer and it's like just like great
Hmm.
pacing and it's immersive, right?
Hmm.
Immersive worlds, I like those. I like a lot of stuff. So
That's amazing, though. I
yeah,
think that's,
I'm
I
very
love that,
range. And
and
I want people of color to write these stories. I'm going to add that in at the end. I think we have been pigeonholed slightly into just writing books about our ethnicity, our cultures, where we're from, our heroes, heroines, which I still want. I want all of those, yes,
hmm.
but I do want us to be free and what we write. I want us to dream a little bigger. I
Hmm.
want you to write, stories where there's a kid that imagines things that
Hmm.
are like not real. They go on adventures, they go to space, like just things that are, every day, but also not every day, things that are extraordinary, unordinary. I think that we should be able to write any kind of character. So
I love
I
that.
definitely want that. I'm hungry for that.
Hmm.
Um, and I challenge, here we go, just write it. I challenge you to write it. Like, who's the black lady that's gonna write the next Dragon Loves Tacos? Like, so
Yeah,
I think we should be
yeah.
able to do all of that.
I love that. And I think we've talked about this a little bit before, and I think that's such a great message because writers who look like us and have spent a lot of time dissecting our trauma, how do we put that trauma on a page, to for middle school kids, for high school kids, for adults, for children. Like that is such hard work. You're reliving these experiences over and over and over again. It doesn't have to be that way, right? It doesn't have to be that way. And I think for so long, I mean, even right now, I think we are still doing that. I don't see a lot of authors that have either had the opportunity to or simply writing that way because for one, I don't know how it's going to be received, and based on what we see in the market, like there's not a lot of authors of color who are making books that are, or I don't want to say making books because they're probably making the books, and those books may have been like rejected, if I'm being
Hmm.
honest. But a lot of those books haven't been received well because a lot of people, publishing houses, etc., are taking the books that are about our culture, our heroes, etc., as you mentioned. So I love hearing that so much. It makes me feel so excited because I know that you will do that, and I know that there'll be more books in the world that are about joy, laughter, fun, and just like being.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just want to be, right? Like we just want to be, and
We
that's
just
okay.
That's it. And I also want to open this up because, well, first I want to say that I am one of many who want this to happen. I know a lot of my peers, like editors, uh,
Hmm.
it like, of color, like we are looking for this. So
Hmm.
please, like, write what you want to write and send it to us.
I love that.
I'll let you know who
I
those
love that.
people are.
I
But
love that.
two illustrators. So I've always been big on like if I'm working on a book like one about Cicely Tyson, I do think that it's very important to have a black illustrator because of what Cicely Tyson stood for. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of my books, I'm very cognizant of, having the right representation um, creatively, right? Like
Hmm.
on the team. That
Hmm.
said, I struggle with this a little bit, and I want illustrators to in their portfolios give us more. So for my Black illustrators, like we want to see the cute dogs, we want to see the
Mm-hmm.
weird sea animals, we want to see the scenes, ones that don't have people, ones that show that you can work, you
Mm-hmm.
know, in the humor space or, you know, the literary space, right? Like we want to see that range in your work because we don't want to only call on them to do the biographies or like the, you know, the issue books.
That's
Like we
so
want them
true.
to be able to do, you know, like Kadir
Things.
Nelson did this beautiful book, Baby Bear. And like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that like we want them to be able to do that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
I love that.
As well as the beautiful undefeated. Like we want them to have range. And so show
Mm-hmm.
that in your work, please. 100% show that in your work. And show kids of color just doing fun things. We want to see
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Just
so
fun thing. It's okay.
yeah, it's and that so that I think is really important that, you know, I like when I think, oh, I have this book about an ogre, right? I don't see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of Black illustrators illustrating ogres or monsters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
It's true.
so that would be great if they did that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we could see that range because I know they can do it. It's just they've
Of
been
course.
told that a certain thing sticks out in their portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
yeah.
that's so interesting because I didn't even think about the illustrator side of that, and it's so true when I think about my favorite illustrators. Like even you mentioned Kadira's, like I don't even know if I've actually read that book that he's done. I know,
Well, I
and
gotta
I've
say it to you now. I love
said
it.
it because I'm trying to think. Like I felt like I read everything, but then when you said that, I was like, I don't know if I've actually read that. Is how old is that book?
It's older than me. No, I'm kidding. It's not. Uh,
It's
no,
older
it's not.
book though, right?
It is, and I'm looking now. Harper published it. Balzer and Bray published it. Um, it is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's Baby Bear. It came out. It
Yeah,
says
that's
2014.
also not that long ago.
No, it's not that long ago. Just kidding. But it came out in 2014, and it's just a gorgeous book. Like you could
Hmm.
see the landscape in the bear's eyes, and
Uh
I
huh.
mean, he is
Maybe I did. I can't
beautiful.
remember if I've seen it or not. It doesn't sound familiar because I think when you
Because
think
we
of him,
always, yeah,
exactly.
when you think of him, you know, you think of the story of African Americans, you think
Uh
of
huh.
Undefeated, you
Mm-hmm.
think of the biographies that he's done,
Mm-hmm. Or like he does a
the
lot of
dope
like
homecomers that he's done.
exactly,
Yeah,
yes. Or he does a lot of the like the New Yorker, like
yep.
the and they are stunning, like stunning.
But he
But
has
that is
range,
of course, of course.
and he has range, and I'm glad that he was able to do that book and
Mm-hmm.
all the other books that he's done. And so
Mm-hmm.
I I am desperately trying now to really like when I have a manuscript that's written by someone that's not of color, like is there an illustrator of color that can do this and match
Mm-hmm.
them up that way and just like
Mm-hmm.
really kind of like shake things up
Mm-hmm. I
and not
love that.
the same usual suspects. So
Here
that's
for
what
it.
I'm looking for.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I have a couple more questions. One question I have to make sure I get to because I saw this in your profile and I've seen it online. You've had the opportunity to work with some very interesting people. Um, do you mind sharing some of the people that you've worked with in regards to publishing their books? Um,
Hmm.
if I can help you if you don't remember, but I'm sure you
No,
remember.
no, I remember. I get to work with James Dean, the creator of Pete the Cat,
It's
every
crazy.
day, and that
That's
is like,
crazy.
I mean, that is
That's
crazy.
wild.
Like we're like he's such a cool guy, and we're like 100 books in. I got to work with Ibram X Kendi, the state Zora Neale Hurston Trust, who is amazing. I got to work with Love Is Wise. They're great. LeBron James, Nina Mata, awesome team, Gabrielle Union. Oh yes, and her husband Dwayne Wade. uh, Dwayne Wade. I got to work with Mary J, which is really nice. And I might be forgetting. I got to work with Naomi Osaka, who's great.
Wow.
Briefly, I got to work with Ann Patchett. She did a couple picture books with us, and I
What?
thought
That
that's
is wild.
yeah. So my boss got to work with her, but it was like a lot. It was like sort of a team effort. And Who else? I mean,
Did you ever think? Did you
Watson.
like?
I mean,
Did you?
it kind of goes
That
like
is
the list. I'll
crazy.
remember other people, but
That is crazy. Would you? Did you ever think there would be a point where you would be, like, and it's not even that. Like, I understand that they are big names, but they are depending on you for something, which is so phenomenal. I think that's so cool. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, but like I appreciate you so much and just so much of what you like represent and who you are as an editor. And I think that people like us seeing you in this position and having influence, you have influence, you really do. It's so cool. It's so
thank
cool.
you. I
Yeah,
never
it's
thought
really,
of
really cool.
myself that way. So I
Well,
really
here you go.
just do my job. I'm like, oh, I do my job, and I read my little books.
No,
And
you're amazing. You're
so
amazing. You're
thank you, and
amazing.
I owe it to like the people that came before me, like Tracy Sherrod from
Hmm.
Amistad. She saw me and she was like, I'm going to take you to Nobu and we're going to eat food you can't even pronounce and let's talk. And she really did help me a lot in my journey here
Wow.
and like advocating for myself and the people around me. Um, so and then just seeing like the Toni Morrisons do it, the Chris Jacksons do it right in the
Hmm.
adult space. I and even Tracy Todd in the children's space. So like, I have like a lot of people who have laid that out for me.
Hmm.
But it is still like, Denise Milner
And
too, who I actually worked with. I'm like her editor. I don't know how
that's
that's possible, but
wild.
so she, just all of these people who have been doing it for
Hmm.
so long. Um, but it is a very unique experience because at Harper, I feel like I could positively say like there's never been a black woman like at my level, like
Hey,
even like editor level.
hey, this is it. This is it.
So
So
it's nice to
thank you very much, and thank you to those before you. Like we talk about it all the time, right? Sending that elevator back down. Like, what are you doing to keep moving the needle, right? And you're doing everything you possibly can. So I appreciate you so much. I really do. I would ask, like, where can people find you online? Like, I, I took it.
don't
I know.
no. I'm starting to like ease up on the no social media. So you can find me at Lou Edits Books on Instagram for now.
And she does post. She does post, and like not like randomly, like pretty frequently that I've noticed actually, which is really good.
On my personal page, like they're like six posts, and and my fiance's like, well, I can't like any of your photos because you post once a year. It's like, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It is totally okay. But thank you so much. This was so much fun. This was so much.